couple of hours ago.
Live and on your side, WBRC Fox 6 News starts with breaking news.
And our breaking news team coverage tonight of a Birmingham police officer shot multiple times and in surgery as we speak, and a robbery suspect dead downtown tonight.
Our Josh Gant is covering the crime scene. He's downtown on 1st Avenue North at Arrington. Josh, what can you tell us?
Hey there, guys. Police Chief Patrick Smith just stopped by our location. He's on the way to the media staging area, so we should be hearing from him once again about this situation. But as we've been reporting, this started out as a convenience store robbery not too far from here near 25th Street. Once officers got there at that scene, they saw the suspect. They tried to get him into custody. That's when that suspect pulled a gun on the police officers, fired back. That's when they fired at him. He was killed on the scene there. According to Birmingham Police, one officer shot multiple times. He is currently in surgery at UAB. Another officer injured, but that second officer is expected to be okay. But as I mentioned, Police Chief Patrick Smith just stopping by our location just a few minutes ago. He is heading over to, I believe, where my colleague Ashley Knight is, so we should be hearing from him in just a few minutes. Guys, that's the very latest from here. We're at 4th Avenue and Richard Arrington Jr. Boulevard. You can see behind me the scene is still shut down, expected to be closed for quite some time as this investigation continues here in downtown Birmingham. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Josh. And of course, law enforcement across the state, many others concerned about what's going on at UAB right now.
And that's where Brittany Dion is live for us outside the ER. She's been there watching a heartbreaking scene unfold as the family members, we believe, of this officer pulled up a short time ago. Brittany.
Yeah, Jonathan, the family members, we do believe, pulled up here a short time ago. The father jumping out of a truck and yelling in the street, "My son has been shot." He was ushered into the UAB emergency room along with another woman who literally buckled at the knees as she walked into the hospital. Officers embracing her and helping her walk into the hospital. We've been told at the last update from police that this officer was shot multiple times and then currently is in surgery here at UAB. We'll send it back over to you guys for more.
All right, Brady, thanks. Here's Chief Smith again.
As to where we are and what was going on. As all of you know, we had a robbery in progress. Officers confronted the suspect. Officer involved shooting. We have one officer at the hospital who was shot multiple times, in addition to one officer who was injured but not of gunfire. The officer is at the hospital. He's still in surgery. My Assistant Chief Alan Treadway had a chance to speak with his family, and they were okay with releasing his name and information just so the public would know what was going on. So the officer involved that was shot was Officer Cullen, that's Cullen, Stafford, Stafford. He's a 9-year veteran of the department. He was hired July 18th, 2011. And just so happened he will be 36 years of age tomorrow. We still have an ongoing investigation. Aaliyah has arrived. The Alabama Law Enforcement Agency has arrived. They'll be assuming control of the criminal investigation as it relates to the officer-involved shooting. We're continuing to provide whatever support is necessary. Our officer at the hospital is still in surgery as he was shot multiple times, and we are all awaiting additional prognosis at this time from the surgeon involved.
Can we say where on his body he was shot?
Just multiple times. I don't have all of the locations. Once he arrived at the hospital, he was immediately taken into surgery due to the fact that he had been shot multiple times and the loss of blood.
Take us through the scenario, what happened down here. How did this happen? Straight in the middle of rush hour, it's packed down here. What actually happened?
I did that earlier where we had an officer-involved shooting. And
you don't know the motive behind it? You don't know anything
yes,
behind that?
our officers responded to a robbery in progress at the convenience store. Once the suspect left the location, our officers were responding. Our officers confronted the suspect. When they went to approach, an officer-involved shooting occurred as the suspect fired multiple rounds at our officers. Responding officers arrived. One officer was shot multiple times. He was transported to the hospital. We had another officer who had a pretty severe fall. He was also taken to the hospital. We have the one officer in surgery right now. Secondarily, we had additional officers respond to the scene. Those officers confronted the suspect. Multiple rounds went back and forth. Our suspect is deceased at the scene, and we're still conducting our investigation right now.
Can you confirm that the family supermarket was where this took place?
Yes, it's just around the corner from where we are now.
The second officer that was injured, was he injured? Was he part of the backup that was called to respond after the first officer was shot?
Yes.
Is there any update on that officer's condition?
His condition, as far as I know, is very good. We don't expect very much, as he was not shot. It was just a pretty bad fall, that's all.
Do we have any information on this suspect at this time?
We do not have any information on the suspect at this time. The only thing that we have done is make sure that he was provided medical treatment. He was pronounced deceased. He has remained at the scene. We have not done anything further in terms of identification as we try to maintain the crime scene, the integrity of the crime scene for Alabama Law Enforcement Agency to conduct their investigation.
At this point, we do believe he acted alone, though. Is that correct?
Yes, from all indications, everything that we have shows us that he acted alone.
And this officer, was he honored? Conducted with witnesses in the area?
I'm sorry?
Have any interviews been conducted with witnesses in the area?
We have identified multiple witnesses who saw the suspect leaving the location, also hiding several times as the officers approached, and moving about the area trying to elude the officers, but ultimately fired multiple rounds at different locations as the officers responded.
Now, this is a wide block area that's been marked off here. Do we know the exact amount of distance the suspect traveled from the initial robbery?
I want to say about 3 to 4 blocks, as we have about 3 locations of engagement.
Is it true this officer was honored in the past few years?
I don't have that information for you.
Anyone injured at the store?
I'm sorry?
Anyone injured at the store when Robin took place?
No one was injured at the store.
Do you guys still anticipate needing to keep this area blocked off until about 1 a.m. to continue this?
We will continue to keep this area blocked off for as long as we need to conduct the investigation, gather all evidence, and collect evidence at the scene.
What's the mentality of your officers right now?
Our officers are out here to do a good job for the city of Birmingham. These officers were involved in a citywide task force, specifically coming out for instances just like this, where we have any cluster or problems of violent crime within the city. We're going to take action, and we're going to be out here making sure the city's safe.
Do you have any idea if the officer is going to require several surgeries or kind of a timeline of when he's expected out of surgery?
I don't have that information, but as soon as I get it, I'll share it with you. The point of the matter is we're going to give him all the support he needs, all the medical treatment that he needs to make sure that he's okay.
So is that condition critical, stable?
He's still in surgery right now.
Okay, so we're not able
We
to
don't have that. Yes, ma'am.
And how are you doing as all of this is unfolding?
I'm doing fine. Our officers out here doing what we expect them to do. They're out here taking action. They're out here engaging folk who are causing a problem within the community, and we're going to continue to do so.
What do you say to those criminals out there who have, we've recently had issues with them firing shots at officers? What is your message to them tonight?
As I said, our officers are out here to do a job, and we're going to take care of the problems and circumstances that we encounter within the city. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can we expect another update in an hour?
Absolutely. We'll continue.
So you've just heard from Birmingham Police Chief Patrick Smith with a little bit more detail about what unfolded earlier this evening. The officer whose name he shared with us,
Officer Cullen Stafford, yes.
Yeah, see a picture here, was about to turn 36 years old tomorrow.
And tomorrow the anniversary of his hiring with the department as well.
Yeah.
So tomorrow an important day in his life.
So he responded to this robbery in the 500 block of 23rd Street. He engages. The suspect is shot, calls for help. That suspect moves along, I believe, 5th Avenue, hiding at some points from the other officers who were showing up on the scene. They are exchanging gunfire that ends with that suspect dead over near a city parking garage.
And again, this Officer Cullen Stafford, we now can report to you this is not the first time he's been injured in the line of duty. He was injured in the line of duty in a crash back in 2017. We've got the context of that for you in a moment, but we want to get to City Councilor Darrell O'Quinn, who is kind enough to join us by phone tonight, and certainly I know his thoughts are with this officer and his family.
Yeah, Councilor, tell us what you've heard and what's going through your mind right now.
So I am actually out of town at the moment, and I was informed about the shooting via text message from my wife. She saw the reports coming across social media, and so I've been following along as the reporting has been occurring live. So my thoughts are with Officer Stafford and his family. We're praying for a good outcome in this situation. I was very concerned, whenever I heard that an officer had been shot and saw the live feed with all the officers around the emergency room, fearing for the worst as we've recently been through that situation.
Mm-hmm. Are you confident that officers have what they need to do their jobs every day and to handle situations like this?
I am. I place my trust in Chief Smith. I know that he has significant work to do in bringing the police department to where it needs to be. But I'm confident that he is doing a good job. This is just part of the job, as he said, that this is what police officers sign up for, and unfortunately, as long as we're going to have criminals out there shooting guns, we're going to have circumstances like this.
Councilor O'Quinn, could you talk about just from a morale standpoint, the department had not dealt with a death in the line of duty in a number of years, and you had this situation where 2 officers were shot and 1 killed back on January the 13th, and now almost 6 months to the day later, another officer shot multiple times in the line of duty. You were a part of the mourning process for Sergeant Carter, the recovery processes for Officer Allums. Talk about what this department faces just from a psychological standpoint of the next few days and weeks.
It is, been challenging over the last few months. I can also tell you that I attended an award ceremony just a few weeks ago where several Birmingham police officers were honored for their courage under fire and for, being in circumstances that none of us would want to find ourselves in. So this is, unfortunately, just part of the job. And fortunately, it's rare enough that whenever a police officer does get shot or killed, that it really shocks us that this doesn't happen so frequently that we become numb to it. That's in a certain point of view a good thing, I think. Again, we're just praying for a good outcome under the circumstances.
All right. Thank you, Councilor O'Quinn. Again, thanks very much for joining us. And as you said, this is a time that the department is going to have to sort of reopen a very fresh wound, but they have been through this process of healing. So has the city. We've just learned from the city government that Mayor Randall Woodfin will not be releasing a statement tonight. All the information is going to go through the police department. So we have been reaching out to the mayor's office, and that's the word we just got. That's right. So again, most of that information will come through Chief Smith, at least the last 2 updates. Not sure if we will get any more tonight. Of course, everyone waiting for more information on the condition of the officer involved, Officer Stafford, a 9-year veteran of the police department who
turns 36 years old tomorrow.
That's right, also the anniversary of his hiring. Officer Stafford's Facebook page, interestingly enough, we have found is full of images of memorials remembering the life of Sergeant Waitasha Carter, who was shot in the line of duty back in January. So certainly, and there's a picture from his Facebook page, one of his profile pictures, and we believe the officer in question here, Officer Stafford, is the one being held there by these other gentlemen in the picture, and as you see there, posting in memoriam of Sergeant Waitasha Carter, killed in the line of duty on January the 13th of 2019. Now, speaking of in the line of duty, I mentioned this a moment ago. I want to give you the context here. Not the first time the Officer Stafford has been hurt in the line of duty. A story you may remember, back in 2017, there was a high-speed pursuit where 2 Birmingham police officers were hurt in a crash when officers say that the suspects were Facebook living themselves as they were driving away from the officers, ran into the front yard of a house over on 18th Street Southwest and Grant Avenue. The officers were on the scene of a homicide a couple blocks over, saw this suspect vehicle begin to chase. Well, Officer Stafford was one of those 2 officers who was hurt in that crash. So Officer Stafford hurt in that crash that a lot of you may remember, the suspect's Facebook live streaming that whole thing. That's something we covered for you back in 2017. Now, tonight, he has been shot in the line of duty multiple times. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with the Stafford family. There's the video. Again, this is that Facebook Live that was going on with the suspects being chased by what we believe was Officer Stafford and another officer. This is back in July of 2017. So almost July 1st is when this happened, we believe. So almost exactly 2 years ago, Officer Stafford chasing the suspects who were live streaming this whole thing. They ended up crashing in the front yard of a home. You remember this, Steve, happened about this time of night. 2 police officers significantly hurt, and one of them was Officer Stafford, who made a full recovery. So we know he is made of tough stuff. We know he has been through this before, injured in the line of duty. 2 years ago, almost to the day, he turns 36 tomorrow. His anniversary of a hiring at the department is tomorrow. And now it's been almost 2 years since he was hurt in the line of duty. Tonight, he has been shot multiple times by a robbery suspect fleeing the Family Market, I believe is what they told us is where this took place.
Over on 23rd Street, the 500 block. And again, Birmingham Police, due to celebrate promotions and graduations from the police academy on Friday, about 36 new officers joining the force, and about 25 officers being promoted to either sergeant or lieutenant. And so again, not that it needed it, but that ceremony likely to have some added gravity to it, as people will be mindful of just what type of risk that officers face when they walk out the door every day.
And Officer Stafford, one who has experienced that risk firsthand, as we now can report for you, just 2 years ago. Let's go to Brittany Dion, who is outside the ER, where Officer Stafford is being treated and where his family, we believe, is inside as well. By the way, Brittany, this is extremely unusual for us to have this name this fast, and it is because that family was willing to release it to sort of quell any concern, and really, I think, a gesture for other officers' families so that they wouldn't be concerned.
Oh, absolutely, Jonathan. A lot of folks, as we've been reporting over the last few hours, have been coming up, officers from different agencies all over the area coming here to check on this officer Stafford, to see if he is all right. Again, as we said, we were here when his father and another woman showed up here. The father yelled, "My son has been shot." The officers embracing him and walking him into the hospital along with the other woman who barely could make it across the street. I'm sure this is very tough for that entire family. The community here standing by, really concerned for him, saying that they are sending their prayers, really hoping that he pulls through tonight. Now, what we just heard from Chief Smith with Birmingham Police Department, this officer is still in surgery at this hour. For the folks at home just tuning in with us, he's in surgery, and that was the last update. As Steve Crocker just said, being family members of officers, knowing when they go out, it's possible they won't come home. As the daughter of a police officer, I know that feeling all too well. When my father went to work, it was a possibility that he would not come home. So you live with that every single day as family members, but it still hits home. It's still very tough when something happens to them. So his family, obviously heartbroken. Obviously, they need our prayers from the community tonight as they are inside of this hospital right now while he's in surgery. Everyone certainly praying for Cullen Stafford. His birthday, 36th birthday, is tomorrow. So a lot of people, he's on their minds, and everyone that we've spoken to here tonight definitely sending their love and their prayers to this family. Jonathan, Steve.
All right, Brittany, again, offering that personal insight. Your dad is a police officer. You can imagine what these families are going through tonight. So really a magnanimous gesture on the part of Officer Stafford's family to say, look, it's okay to tell everybody his name, even though we're going through this fresh trauma, because we don't want any other officer's family to be concerned.
Officer Stafford in surgery. Another officer